Here we go. We're getting ready for the next episode of How to Choose Love. You're really going to be excited to meet my guest today. We're just getting everything in place. We're getting everything ready. There we go. All right. One more second and we will be ready to go. You are really going to be excited to meet my wonderful friend today. Do y'all ever just think it takes forever for these things to load? Is it just me? Okay, here we go. Ta-da! Welcome to How to Choose Love. I'm your host, Diane Haworth, and I am thrilled to welcome one of my best buddies, Heather Evans. Heaven, look, Heaven, you're looking like a little angel in that backdrop.
Why, thank you. It's so good to be here. Thank you so much. This is art from Paula Majeski, who's a beautiful artist here in Los Angeles. She painted this, and it is one of my favorite pieces.
And it's a stunning background. And that's one of the reasons that I love speaking to Heather. She radiates with her knowledge, with her skill, with her heart, exactly what you see in that painting. So welcome to Heart-Centered Success. Look, that's the wrong show. How to Choose Love. And let me do the formal introduction to Heather. She is CEO and founder of Pivot Coaching. She's an ICF certified coach, a member of the Harvard Institute of Coaching, award-winning communications consultant. Like, that's not enough. I've got more. Hang on. After a transformative health experience in 2013, Heather's lifelong philosophy of personal growth expanded into a revolutionary love-centered coaching curriculum that leaves individuals and teams more empowered, successful, and inspired. And that's actually how I first met Heather. We've been on several masterminds together. One was love-centered coaching, actually. She's worked with some of the largest brands in the US, offering leadership and personal development. She also works with individuals, teaching them how to shift from the weakest to the strongest part of themselves in any situation. And Heather, I hope we get to that today because I think that's a fantastic process that you take people through. She provides custom training, talks, and learning programs based on the latest principles and practices in spiritual psychology, neuro leadership, and communications. And if that's not enough, she's just one of the most heart-centered people I know. So Heather, thank you so much for being here.
It is such an honor. Thank you.
And I think that's probably why I even screwed up the title there, because you are so heart-centered. You live this, and we've known each other for several years now. So I've seen you go through wonderful things, exciting times, your girls graduating, and I've seen you in not so great times. So let's kick this off and just tell us in general, how do you choose love?
So, one of the ways that I suppose it's just my training, I'm a 20-year career communicator. And so, one of the biggest ways that I know how to practice choosing love, and I really do see it as a practice daily, a conscious effort. And I mean, like, yeah, I think that is right. I think effort is the right, a conscious intention anyway. It is to do so with language, to do so in the way that we communicate inside in the inner conversation, choosing love, and the outer conversation. So, and they're often really not two separate things. Depending on what's going on really in your inner conversation, you're going to be more fear driven in your external way of being, or more love centered.
So one of the things that we talk about just as friends is the vibrations of the emotions in our language.
Absolutely.
Talk a little bit about that, because I think that's fascinating. And I think that's something that I know that I had to learn to be aware of because I wasn't.
Right. And it's incredible. What's interesting about it is that we all know what we mean by a low vibration or a fear-based language, or a more elevated, love-focused kind of language. So if we're speaking to one another, for instance, and maybe you've ticked me off. That's it, Diane. Yes, you've done something and I'm triggered. So there are so many ways that we can approach I'm triggered. And inside there might be a rant, for instance, blah, blah, blah. She always does this, you know. I'm totally making this up now because you couldn't be more loving or more close to my heart. But that idea of like, this is what we do, right? We're in a challenge in some relationship. It could be in the work environment or the personal relationship kind of scenario. But there's some sort of challenge and we immediately go into some inner rant. And it typically is about, you're a jerk because blah, 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 blah. So what I know about what that does to the human energy system is it drains us immediately. Anytime we're inside blaming and judging and attacking, we have immediately actually attacked ourselves with this banter, to put it in its simplest terms. So the way to shift out of that, to raise our own energy, to feel more elevated, more empowered, to step into our strongest self, is to shift the conversation first inside. And so there's a simple way to do it. It's stop judging. I stop saying,
really easy, right?
Yeah, right.
That's a simple one.
Just stop saying, this person is a jerk and that's why I'm upset. Now, what do we do then? Because immediately the impulse is, someone's made me mad, hurt me, something's happened here. The answer is we become more willing to be totally honest with ourselves. If I'm triggered and my immediate impulse is, that person's a jerk, the truth is something else. The truth is I'm hurt. The truth is about me. It's not about them. So you shift the conversation by immediately saying, wait a minute, let me be really honest with myself here. That person, let's say, who just cut me off on the road, they scared me. That scared me. I'm afraid. I'm feeling fear. I'm feeling anger. I'm right. Whatever the emotion is, you really connect honestly with what in the world is going on with you. Now we start to be empowered because now I've claimed something that's true for me. I'm no longer outward in blame and focus outward outside of myself, which is disempowering and dramatically affects the human energy system. So I shift right into empowerment language when I just simply own my own emotional reaction. So that's the first step.
Wow. Now, let me ask you to expand on that just a little bit, if that's okay. I absolutely love what you're saying. And you all know this is exactly what happens. You feel yourself being constricted. You can feel it in your body, can't you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
One of the things I love that you use the word blame, because that's really a big trigger for a lot of people. Another one is shame. And that's that internal voice that we're ashamed that I can't believe I did this. I can't believe. Speak a little bit about when that trigger is inward toward ourselves. That might be a little harder to catch, but it's absolutely possible, isn't it? Because you and I've learned to do it.
Absolutely. And it's literally it's just blame operating differently. It's just blame self-directed. That's what shame is. I'm bad. I'm wrong. I'm the problem. So you're still blaming. Yep. But it's even lower energy. In fact, the book Power versus Force by Dr. David Hawkins, I know you know it well, but he compiled in that book a way of calibrating each of these emotional states. And the lowest one is shame. It scores at about a 20. So as opposed to, for instance, just to give it context, love, which would be at about 500, enlightenment at somewhere around 1,000. Yeah. So it gives you a sense. So the lowest vibration thing that we can do is to go into a story that is self-attack. I'm a bad person. I'm not good enough. No one listens to me. I'm not valuable. I'm not loved. Whatever that kind of shame-based ultimate, fear is, that's running inside, it's the most disempowering thing that we can do.
Yeah. Especially in these times when, to me, we've talked offline, 2020 to me is all about the we consciousness. those lower vibrations of judgment, entitlement's another one, anger, they are so me oriented that it's just difficult psychologically to see the bigger picture when you're stuck in those lower energies. And those energies are fed by language.
Absolutely. So our thoughts are a language-based system.
Yep.
So it's all in the way that we language. So if we go into some sort of rhetoric that maybe is a habitual way of viewing things, I'm a bad person, I'm not a good friend, whatever it is, we shame ourselves in that situation or blame ourselves for a misstep or I should have known better kind of comments. Anytime we're doing that, we're running a pattern that's probably run for a while. It's our super ego, which means there's a neural pathway that's very strong. It's like a muscle. It's a thought we've thought over and over again, and we've built it up. And so the goal, if we're going to choose love, is to release the energy around that neural pathway. All that is a muscle that's built up energy over time by thinking the same thought over and over again. How in the world do we release it? We catch ourselves thinking the thought and then start to use some tools and skills to get that energy out. We're really just looking to release the energy. One of the best ways I know is through writing. Journaling, you know, you hear that a lot, but sometimes even just the word journaling, people will say, oh no, I'm resistant to it because I don't have time and blah. Even if you took 12 minutes, 5, 12 minutes, 2 minutes, if that's all you had, and just let yourself write out, I'm so angry, I'm so mad at myself for that, whatever it is, just to vent it and then rip it up or burn it. That act, science, this is science-based. So the act of releasing the energy of that neural pathway just by writing it out is profound. We will immediately, there is, and it's different with typing. So I'm really suggesting to write
Handwriting.
it. Yeah, handwriting. So when you do that, you know, you release some of that toxicity in a sense. It's a toxin. It's just a neurotoxin that we've become very habituated to. And it's extremely disempowering.
You know that I'm a big proponent of journaling. I journal. I can't promise you I journal every day, but I journal 5 out of 7 days usually. And when I first started, by the way, one of my coaches made me do it. And I remember my very first entry. This is stupid. I can't believe he's making me do this, but I paid him a lot of money and I'm going to journal just so I can show him it doesn't work. And it's magic. It's absolutely magic. The way that I explain it to my clients is I have them imagine a water bottle. And because your body's a container. And if you have this much filled with the energy of stress, anger, overwhelm, that's that much less space and energy you have in your body for joy, happiness, peace, everything that we want.
It's
So
so
I love that you brought that up. That is a wonderful way. So we're catching our thoughts as best we can. We're learning
right.
how to do that through journaling, even 5, 10, 12 minutes a day, consistently,
Exactly.
doing
Yep.
free writing. And what other kinds of tools will help us?
And then we apply skill. So then there are these little pivotal moments, as I call them. They're just these little tweaks, they're just a little opportunity to say, okay, I just caught myself in this rant. I just caught myself in this inner conversation that's totally depleting me.
Mhm.
So what little skill do I have? So for instance, I'll give you 3 examples. One skill is to notice, was I involved in some level of complaint? The
Good
inner
one.
conversation, was I complaining? Okay. If it's a complaint, what request could I make that would address this complaint? So I choose to shift from a complaint to a request. And that can happen in the inner conversation or directly in the outer conversation. If we're really feeling like I have a complaint about something, it's going on in my household, in my team, in my environment. Well, okay, is there a request I could make? Because the complaint is always going to have disempowered language and a disempowered energy that we can all feel. We all know when they're complaining, ranting, complaining. And it's fine to do that for a little bit, as long as you then stop yourself and own, what is a request I could make that would shift this experience for myself or others? So that's one skill. Another one is notice perhaps, is the blame, the rant, is it about some sort of expectation I have that's unspoken? The opportunity to shift to a more loving orientation would be to move from an expectation to an agreement. So the question would be, if that was based on an expectation, maybe my roommate did this and such, and I really never asked directly, or I did ask, but they've let me down. Okay, then I either need an agreement I never made or a new agreement because the one we had wasn't strong enough. So that's another example.
And I think it's important also to mention my poor husband. I use him as a example all the time. A lot of my unmet expectations are expectations that were only in my head anyway.
Yes.
They were even unspoken expectations.
Right?
Just catching that
Yeah.
is important.
It is, and
And it's a way to show love.
It is. It's a way to show deep, unconditional, positive regard for someone. That's a Carl Rogers term, and I love it because it shifts. I know that in my own practice and with my clients, it really can be a little moment, a tool you can use in the moment of like, right, UPC, unconditional positive regard. How can I view this person through that lens and give myself an opportunity to communicate with them differently? Because I've noticed I'm complaining. All right, so I'll shift into a request, or I have an expectation, spoken or not. What's an agreement I could make? And then I think, and a final one I just wanted to offer for consideration is the whole idea of so many times I'll hear with clients, this happened just today. I was working with someone and who was very aware that there was an opportunity to shift from a people-pleasing kind of orientation to a different way of being. And that actually happens in the languaging system too. The thought is, I need to please you because I want you to love me. I want you to like me. I want you to approve of me. I want you to promote me. I want whatever. If we are willing to shift the way that we hold that word from pleasing into service, it becomes a way higher vibration way of relating. So rather than, I need to please you, how can I serve you? One question you can even ask yourself in this regard is, what happens when I begin my day? If I have a people-pleasing pattern I'm aware of, what happens when I begin my day by saying, I dedicate my day to service? How would I serve someone? An example of that, if we're people-pleasing, someone who has a drinking problem, we serve them a drink. We just want to please them. We just want to calm them down. We just want to pacify them. We don't want to have a hard conversation, have an intervention. Service has the intervention.
In that particular example as well, if we are providing the drink, then that is sowing the seeds of resentment within ourselves. That is not a loving choice.
Completely. It's a fear-based choice. People pleasing or pleasing in general comes from an energy inside of us and a conversation, a thought that's, I'm not enough. I don't want to deal with this. I'm afraid of conflict. It's always some sort of fear-based self-criticism or criticism of others. Yeah.
It's so interesting. You all can feel it. The energy in the word pleasing versus the energy of service. And it's really when you are coming from the heart, right? It is just a completely different experience because you feel it in your body. That's what's so amazing to me when we really catch on to how these words that we use are making us feel in our body. That's the clue. That's one of the clues, right?
It really is. You're so spot on there. It's like, where is my energy? I'll know immediately if it's in an empowered place or a disempowered place. I will either feel energized or feel, right? Love is energy. Fear is like a whole different zone. Like, so we feel it in our stomachs, we feel it in our hearts, we feel it in our shoulders in tension. Anytime we're contracting, then we know that there's some sort of disempowered language that's actually operating. This happens a lot even in emails, right? Do your
Yes.
emails, right?
Yes.
Do your
Yeah.
emails have a pleasing or a serving tone to them? Is a good question. Just start to look at some of the practical ways that you are communicating with others. How would you approach that customer or influencer or boss if you were coming from a place of trying to serve the organization or the team or the family? So depending on what kind of a group that you're working with, what situation we're working with, but if you live from, how could I serve this person right now?
From
Uh,
love. Serve from love.
from love. How could I serve from love? That is an entirely different orientation. Kindness and respect versus pleasing someone. So,
When
I mean, when we think about it, it's like, on our deathbed, is that really what we, think about? Did I please a bunch of people, or was it, what difference did I make? Did I make a difference for people? Did I serve someone? Did my life matter? So those are the questions that actually are at the end of it from our hearts. And they come from a deep knowing that we want to be of service. We want to be purpose driven, and we want to function in our inner and outer conversations from a place of the highest integrity.
I love that, Heather, and it sparked something, especially when you're talking about email. I'm sure you've never done this, but I bet some of you in our audience has done it, because I know I've done it. I haven't been present. It's just, I'm going to shoot this. I even say that I'm just got to, shoot this email off. Well, first of all, I need to rework that. I need to rework the way I'm thinking about that. I want to be totally present and make sure that language in whatever email, I don't care what it is absolutely reflecting a loving intention. That even in those tiny small things, you choose love. And believe it or not, even when I get a telemarketing call, or you know how many emails we get, right? I try to be as loving in the communication with that as possible, because I don't think it's either you try to do that, and for me, it's something that I aim to do every day, moment by moment. It doesn't always work out, quite frankly. That's that whole human thing I have, but that's my intention.
Yeah.
But to be more present to our language is all part of that awareness piece, isn't it?
Absolutely. One of the big shifts, I think, for me, I went through a divorce 4 years ago. I like to call it a conscious completion of 18 years of marriage. And one of the things I really set a clear intention was to look at how I was going to language that. Not just the completion of that, but the entire experience. And I had a conversation with my ex-husband that was about our choice. We have a choice. Lots of people do this in lots of ways, and we have a choice about how we're going to do it. And we set the tone for that. People who love us will rush in on either side and say, oh my goodness, you're so right. And the other side will say, you're so right. And how could she, and how could he? And they will do that probably because they mean to be loving and they don't know a better way. But we, even in those situations, get to set the tone. And one of the big ways, I do work with divorced individuals as well as larger companies. And lately I've just really been in this kind of conversation a lot, I guess just because of my own experience, but offering that even in those situations, we have the opportunity to just acknowledge deeply and honestly that someone is just, hey, thank you for saying that. I know that's coming from love. And I want you to know, and then you switch into how you really want to language this. I want you to know that that marriage sometimes ends and it's not a failure. And we learned a lot. And while the form of our relationship is changing, the relationship is not ending, it's just shifting forms. And we're really committed to looking at how we learned together and what we can learn going forward and how we can work in cooperation. So I heard a lot when I was going through that experience. It's like, well, you just have to compromise. That's the best way to co-parent and so on and so forth. But I hear, and I wonder, I'll just offer and just ask whoever, whoever's listening, just kind of close your eyes for a moment. If you're listening live or later on this recording, how does it feel in your body when you say, I'm going to compromise with you, versus this, we're going to come into cooperation. When we come into cooperation, I know for me, that softens. It softens my heart. I feel it in my chest. I literally feel it in my body. Compromise makes me feel like both of us are going to lose something here. And we're just going to have to bite the bullet, and that's how it is. It just doesn't feel as good as, I really hope that we can come into cooperation here. That's my intention, is to come into cooperation with you, even if we see things differently, even if we never agree on this. I hope we can find something workable so we can come into cooperation.
Well, as you know, I watched you go through that.
Yes.
And if I may say so, it was not every day was easy, but I watched you consciously choose. And that not only benefited you, your ex-husband, but those beautiful girls. The ripple effects whenever we choose love is so much bigger than even just us in the moment. That is one of the things that Dr. Hawkins says, right? Is the more of us that choose love, the more energy of love is around for us all to be influenced by. I was talking to somebody today. You guys know what happens when you're at a party, everything's great, and the little sad sack comes in. What happens to the energy of the party?
Yeah.
And what happens the other way? It's like everybody's having an okay time and it's pleasant. And man, that life of the party comes in. Everybody's elevated. Everybody's having a great time. They're laughing. Even though there are lots of things right now that we may not feel like laughing about, we can always choose a loving perspective. And if we don't know what that is, go inside and ask. That's what I do. What advice would you give to someone that's saying, they might be watching and saying, Heather, I really agree with everything you're saying, but gosh, I don't know how to start. Would it be the journaling? Where would you have somebody start on this process?
Yeah, I'm going to be launching an online course called, a little tongue-in-cheek, Gratitude for Jerks.
How great is that?
In a couple weeks, and I know a part of this broadcast, there's a link to a free gift that actually outlines 8 steps that you can take to get to gratitude for some of the most challenging people in your life. And I would say, we begin anything with intention. So the first thing, really, just like I was saying with divorce, with breaking up, with any challenging relationship in general, even if it's the challenging relationship with ourselves, it's to set the intention. I have a choice, and my intention is to keep going back to what I really want to accomplish here. And that's the highest possible way of relating to what is happening that I can muster. That's how I step into my strongest self. I just keep choosing it.
Yeah.
I set the intention to begin with, and we will be challenged. I will tell you. I didn't write that. I didn't write that guide because, from experience, right? I mean, look, this is the thing. We will be tested in a sense. We will be offered ample opportunity to use every challenge that happens in our lives for growth.
And no opportunity is wasted when you choose love. And I am so appreciative that you're using this term relationship, because even though we've been talking about you and your ex-husband, This is the relationship with your clients, with your boss. It's your relationship with food. It's your relationship with your home, with your community, with the people in your family. You have relationships with yourself. Every time you choose love, you're choosing that higher vibration for yourself, for your family, for your community, and believe it or not, your world. So I just can't thank you enough for helping us today. Anything else you want to add before? Anything else you want to add
I
before you
think,
tell people where to find you? And
yeah, just one last thing. I think as I think
please.
about it, when I'm really in the thick of it, when I'm really in a tough situation and I can see that my impulse is not to choose love, I ask myself, what is the most honest, loving thing I could say right now? The most honest, loving thing I could say right now. It might be my impulse is, you're a jerk, but the truth, that's not the truth. The most honest, loving thing I could say right now is, I'm struggling.
Mm.
I'm struggling with you. I'm struggling with this. I'm struggling with life. That's really right. It's really about what's going on. So the most honest, loving
Just
thing.
relax. I could just feel myself relax just even asking that question. Just ask that question. Oh, my beautiful friend. Thank you so much. The time just went too fast. Tell everyone, because I know they're just going to love you as much as I do, where can they find your website? It is always going to be in the description right here at the show, as well as the link to Gratitude for Jerks, which is, that's a great title.
It's so fun. I've
That's a
had so
great
much fun.
title. Yep.
Yeah, so you can find me on my website at pivotincorporated.com. And I have a blog, and you can sign up for a newsletter there. And of course, to receive the guide, the free gift, you can go to pivotincorporated.com /free gift. And you can also follow me on Instagram. I'm at coaching.evolved.
And she's wonderful there. I love getting her newsletters. There's always wonderful information. Sweetheart, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Oh.
Really, really appreciate it. I am also very appreciative of you all. Thank you so much for being here today. Remember, we're here every Wednesday. I encourage you to put your comments below. Heather and I have not been able to see them while we're broadcasting here, but we will go back and look at those. So if you have a comment or a question, make sure you put that there. My name is Diane Haworth. You can find out more about my heart-centered success coaching at dianehaworth.com. And you can find out about really the passion of my life at the beloveprinciples.org website. We'll be here next Wednesday. My name is Diane Haworth. Thank you for tuning in to How to Choose Love, and I'll see you next week.